What's going on, guys? Horror Junkies back with another video. And damn it, this is the one we've been waiting on for months.
Now the next one we're looking forward to is Boogeyman.
Yeah. And I'm going to come out real quick and say, sorry, guys, we hadn't been really doing anything. We kind of waited on this video, I think, just because it's going to be we're going to spoil the shit out of it. So I wanted to at least wait a week.
And the fact that we both work.
And yes, a lot. Wife just had surgery. And so had a lot of things going on. Been working out of town a lot. You've been working a lot. So we're just now getting to it. But we did go see it on Sunday. Evil Dead Rise.
Evil Dead Sink.
God. I mean, where do you start? Because this movie is...
Thank God Bruce Campbell's not in it.
But before we get into that, we'd really appreciate you guys if you'd hit that subscribe button, that thumbs up button, and hit that notification bell. So every time Horror Junkies comes out with another video, you get that notification because it helps. You know, when you know, you know. And you just don't know until you know. So that bell will help you. But Evil Dead Rise, holy shit.
The movie was great.
First of all, I'm going to start off by saying this has to be the best introduction title screen to a fucking movie I've ever seen in my fucking life. I mean, look at the backdrop. That's it right there.
It comes up from the mountains.
Like, when we first get into this movie, you see these people at this camp. At this cabin. And it's an oddly looking cabin, but it's really cool looking. And so it starts out like really fucking quick. Like, and the one thing I did love in the beginning is how they did the original. They paid tribute to the original where it looked like the fucking the demon was coming. Mm-hmm. Going across the land and shit, and it was making the noise, and then it just pops up over the lake, and it's a fucking whatever you call one of them fucking things.
A drone?
Yeah, a drone. Yes, drone. I'm stupid.
Yeah, because we were even when we were watching the movie and that happened, I was like, oh, I see what they did there. Yeah, that's cool.
And they did a really good job with that. And it just literally takes off from there and just blows your fucking mind. Like this first of all, the special effects on this, there's only one nitpick I have out of this whole movie when it comes to special effects. One fucking nitpick, and it is the beheading of the guy in the beginning.
Yeah, it was kind of weird.
It was really cheesy.
Like the head part that was severed kind of went down a little too far. It looked like it got ripped off from his shoulders.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was great.
You could tell that
it looked fake.
You could tell it wasn't CGI.
Yeah.
You could tell it was a synthetic piece that was just thrown up on the deck of the
lake.
The lake. You could tell it was fake. Other than that, the special effects in this movie were ridiculously good. And you could tell that the blood through the whole thing was not CGI'd. It was corn syrup, obviously, because it just had that look to it, which was fucking great for them to go back to the original way they're doing blood. Mm-hmm. You know, CGI blood is garbage.
You can always tell when blood is CGI, and it's terrible.
And the blood in this movie was not CGI.
And it was everywhere.
Oh, one of the bloodiest... The only movie I can compare this to at this point would be The Terrifier 2, blood-wise.
Or blood-wise.
Gory,
2013's Evil Dead, because that had a lot of fucking blood in it.
Yes, I mean, but I think the 2013 version was CGI blood, wasn't it?
I don't think so.
I can't remember. It's been
Movie's fucking great.
I watched it in 2013.
Still the best one to me.
I do like. Well, this one's close.
Oh, this is so close. Like,
This one's really close.
Like, to me, when we walked out, I was nowhere near like disappointed with the movie. I loved the movie, but it just didn't surpass 2013.
I think
for me.
I think for me, the story is what got me on this one because it wasn't as catchy as 2013's. This one, the story was. There really wasn't one. There was a little bit, and what part of the story that there was it was great because they tell you in this movie that there's 3 different books, and that's where the story comes into play. Up until then, and that's pretty much most of the movie. Up until then, the story's kind of lost. You know, it's just a random in an apartment type thing, and you don't even know why because you start out at this cabin, and then it just says, you know,
one day earlier.
Yeah, something like that. And then, you know, you spend this whole day and you're kind of wondering what the fuck's going on or why. But once they get to this part where they explain, where they're playing the albums of why this is what it is, and getting to that point was kind of boring a little bit. The beginning took off. It was really great. It was action packed right off the bat, and then right after that, when you get to a day before that, it gets a little slow. So it's kind of hard to keep into the movie at this point. There's certain things that they do to kind of keep you into it because it's random. There's earthquakes, and the ground opens up, and there's this vault type. Deal.
Their apartment building was built over an old bank,
and so
really the only reason they had an earthquake in the movie is so they could get into the bank.
Yeah, and at this point, you're wondering in the movie, you're like, what the fuck? You know, it's kind of, it doesn't make any sense because you're like, how did the book get in the bank vault?
Right.
You know, and later on in the movie, they tell you, and this is where the story falls into play, is that there's 3 different books. This would be the 3rd book, which would be Ash's book, and then the 2013 book,
Mia's book,
and then this book. So then it starts to make sense where the story sits into play, and you start to get the story sense of it, which is really nice because at first you don't get any kind of story at all, and you're kind of confused. And then when this happens, you're like, okay, I get it.
I like the way they used the book in this one, like because there was no reading out of it. There wasn't any even words in the book.
There was just pictures.
It was just pictures, and you had to actually use the records.
And that's one of the things I was going to add to this is because the records, it read the book without there being any words, and that's what caused the demons to come out of the book and do what it did. Now let's talk about that because that shit came out of nowhere. And from the other movies where they take over the body, this one killed that bitch right off the bat. Then took over. It took over her body and then killed her. And that way it had full use of the body. And
it didn't kill her right away though, because there's that scene in the kitchen right after she gets possessed.
No, it killed her in the elevator.
No, I'm talking like after that, whenever the demon goes into the kitchen to like use the stove.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then like she comes out for a split second.
Yeah. Well, and you get that through the whole movie where there's parts of her because that's where the demon takes over and takes her body, and she plays, which I really love that too because she plays her kids, even because she's gonna kill them motherfuckers. She didn't give a shit.
She don't care.
You know, even the youngest one, she tried to hem that bitch up.
She had Stephanie though. Let me tell you. All right, Stephanie's the shit.
Oh yes, Stephanie. Like the youngest one was the smart one. Mm-hmm. She had a weapon,
and she had her priorities straight when it came to food.
All right? Yeah, like at the beginning when the earthquake happened, these motherfuckers dropped the pizza, and she was like, "She dropped the pizza."
She's Bridget dropped the pizza.
Oh yeah, and
like ground her mom.
You kind of. I love that part too because at some point. After the aftershock, you see her over eating the pizza out of the fucking boxes and shit that they just threw on the ground.
She had her priorities straight. She wasn't worried about no demon.
Yeah, and so there's so many good moments in this movie though. The bathtub scene, fucking great,
creepy,
very fucking good.
Your mommy's with the maggots.
Yes,
now.
Yes. The only thing that I could actually say that would probably be wrong with this scene is that when she gets up on the wall and starts screaming and shit, and all of a sudden she just falls over into the bathtub, and you're just like, how deep is this fucking bathtub?
Because she comes out she's like this way.
Yeah, like she's straight up and down when she comes out, and she's like looking over and shit. So that's kind of weird.
I also noticed something about this particular book, or not the book per se, but the demons in the book. This demon is over dramatic, like very over dramatic. Because like every time he's using a body, he does some cool shit, and then when he's done, the host just like falls over.
Yeah, you got that sense in the very beginning of the movie when you see the girl and she gets up out of bed and all of a sudden this bitch just falls the fuck over. Like it's almost like she was having fun with herself in the bed.
And then she got tired.
And wore out and just fell the fuck over.
I think that was such a simple scene in the beginning. Like really nothing happened, but I think that was one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie where she was just sitting up and just reading from the book without looking at it.
That was one of the coolest parts because her friend was sitting in the chair and she was sick, laying in the bed, and she's sitting in the chair reading this book, and she just sits up out of nowhere and starts reading out of the book without even seeing it, word for word, and her friend's following along with it, and all of a sudden she freaks the fuck out. She's like, "Oh, this bitch is fucked up. Like something wrong with her." And then she falls over.
And scalps a bitch. She grabbed her hair and yanked.
Yes. There's so many good parts of this movie that you literally have to dissect every fucking inch of it because one of the biggest parts that got to me in this whole fucking movie is when the daughter gets possessed,
Bridget,
and she's sitting there eating this glass and she's swallowing it, and you can see the piece of glass come out of her fucking throat, and it's just the special effects on that was so good. Like I said, they had that shitty special effect in the beginning, but then they did shit like this that was ridiculously good. It looked real. Mm-hmm. And then the one part that got me out of all of it was this bitch took a cheese grater to this chick's leg, her aunt's leg. Cheese grater. That shit just looked like it hurt.
Now we need a horror movie where the the killer's weapon is a cheese grater.
This was it. like
that's their weapon for
there's
the whole
no boundaries in horror movies anymore. Now they're using cheese graters. That shit. No.
You ain't ever going to look at a cheese grater and say,
"Oh, hell no." I won't even use one. I'll just buy shredded cheese already. I ain't trying to shred my own cheese and have a cheese grater in my house. That shit's fucked up.
There were so many moments in this movie that like genuinely creeped me out.
Yes.
And it was great.
A lot of them. The Peephole.
Oh, dude.
Was one of the best additions to a horror movie that I've seen to date, because at some certain point in this movie, the Peephole played a big fucking role in this movie, with the mom being locked out of the apartment and the youngest daughter talking to her, and you see killings going on in this hallway through the peephole, which is so fucking cool. I think it just added to the creepiness of this movie. Mm-hmm. It really did. It was awesome as shit.
I think that one of my other favorite scenes in this movie is when the youngest daughter is looking through the peephole, and the camera looks through it, and you just see her staring back, and she looks so fucking creepy.
Yeah. And, she, at first when the daughter looks through the peephole, she's just sitting in the hallway, and she starts talking to her, trying to coach her into letting her in the apartment, and then, the youngest daughter, she ends up falling for it. And then, so she gets her arm through the door and starts choking the shit out of her like she was going to kill her. Like, no bullshit. Like, the demon played both sides of the fence in this movie, which was really fucking good. The thought process for this movie was great across the board. Like I said, I think my biggest problem with this whole movie was the story mode. The story part of it was a little shy, but once you got to the story part of it and they explained what was going on through the records and through the book, it made more sense. But that took most of the movie to get to that point. And it was just ridiculously good. Every kill was phenomenal. They showed people getting killed through this peephole in the hallway. Several.
This bitch bit a dude's eye out and then spit it into another dude's throat. Hardcore.
Like, it's hard to be creepy as shit and funny at the same time, and that's what this was. It added just a little comedy to it because the look on the guy's face was fucking phenomenal. It was great. Like, you're just not gonna forget it. You know what I mean? So it was wonderful.
I think my other favorite scene in this movie is when after they knock out Bridget, or they think she's dead or whatever, and Cassie and the brother are walking down the hallway, and then here comes Bridget wrapped in a fucking sheet, just slowly behind him. I was like, oh
yeah, and they had no clue. And it was great. The aunt played a very good role. Will you have for cast on this? Do we know who played the aunt?
Lily Sullivan played Beth.
She did a real. I don't know her from anything.
That's the weird part is we were sitting in the movie, and the longer the movie went on and the more we followed Beth, I was like, this chick looks familiar for some reason. So I looked her up on Google, and she's been in nothing I've seen.
Really?
But she looks familiar.
She did a really good job.
She did.
Like, I really liked her role. She played the younger sister who
is a groupie.
She works for a band. I guess the sound part of it. And that was the biggest thing. Her sister would tease her saying she was a groupie, and it pissed her off.
It really pissed her off when the demon called her one.
And, she's pregnant.
Which doesn't add anything to the movie.
No, it does not. It does. The only thing that it adds, and it's not till the end, that is, you can almost see the motherly instinct kicking in to save her niece.
It kicked in a little too late because she let her other niece and nephew die.
Well, there wasn't no hope for him, motherfuckers. Boy, I'm telling you right now. I'm just gonna throw it out there. The nephew deserved to die. He's the one that fucking started the whole fucking thing. And the sister even told him, don't be fucking with that shit. You need to go put it back. But at that point, it was already too late. Because the dude, the nephew was, I guess he was a wannabe DJ or some shit, so he found some vinyl and he was just like, I'm going to mix this shit up. And no.
Well, I was thinking about this yesterday. I was like, you remember that in that scene where he goes in the bank and he finds the book and he picks up that coin or whatever and looks at it and puts it in his pocket? What was the coin for?
Yeah.
Because it never came back up.
No, it never did. And what I do like though too, because he ended up taking taking blame for it. You know, he's like, "This is my fault," and his aunt's like, "No, it's not your fault." And he ended up telling her how it all went down, and then she looked at him like, "If you die, I don't even fucking care." You know,
He went through some shit though.
he did.
Like he got fucked up.
Yeah,
Like, he got stabbed through the arm, and then stabbed again in the chest, and then puked on.
oh yeah, like that's how he ended up turning, really, because he stabbed his dead sister already, and then she turned around, stabbed him with the same knife. Infection.
He set her on fire though.
And then, you know, I like the fact that neighbors got involved, you know what I mean, and tried to intervene, but then end up being part of the victims out of all this shit. And so,
My thing is, if you're in the same apartment building,
I was going to get to that.
but you're on the first floor, I'm sorry. You may not be able to hear screaming from like a couple stories above, but I'm pretty sure you'd hear a shitload of gunshots
Oh, yeah.
and not just walk out the building like it's a normal day.
So we get to the end of this movie because they're trying to get out. The stairwells done fell in. They can't get out. The elevator's broke.
It's filling with blood.
There's no electric.
No.
So finally, this mother snack.
Spin wheels.
You never disappoint.
My job.
So we get to the end, and it's the youngest daughter that figures out there's a watch blocking the fucking door for the elevator. That's why it don't work. They get down to the parking garage, and this is when the shit hits the fan, because at some point you see the two kids. The mom gets really fucked up, a leg blown off, an arm blown off, and then the two kids come into play that are already infected. And at some point you see them in the hallway putting their fucking arms and their hands inside of her and shit. Like, you're like, what the fuck? Are they killing her? No. At this point, the book changes its own page and you see this creature. And so that's what they transform into. Like, it's
Like they all
three of
together.
them conjoined together to be this one big ass creature, which is, I don't know that. I think for me, the possessed mom, the possessed kids was fucking, it was great. I don't know that this was necessary for the ending part, because it didn't even last long.
No.
You really didn't see the creature itself up until
The very
right
last.
before they put it in the chipper, and you only see the faces. You don't really see the body, how it's configured together for all three of them. You know it's a thing. You kind of see the shadows part of it, but you don't really, there was not really any detail other than the faces. But then, you know, there's so many Easter eggs in this movie. They pay tribute to the originals with the, it started out with the camera going really fast at the beginning and having the sound for the, you know, and then, you know, you had the boomstick, you had the chainsaw, you had her, the sister at the very end, covered in fucking blood, which was phenomenal. Very good scene too, the way it was done.
I loved how she went to go shoot it, and it was like, nah, bitch, and just threw a chainsaw.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be a scary moment, but we both cracked up.
Yeah. There was so many good things about this movie. I can't really say enough about it. It did have its slow parts to it. It did have its cheesy moments to it, like with the severed head and the creature at the end. But other than that, special effects were great. The blood splatter was good. It wasn't overly done. There was a lot of blood, but it wasn't overly CGI blooded up like you see most movies today. So,
well, now that we know that there's 3 books officially, I think they need to make a movie where it's all 3 books, and you got Ash, Mia, and now Beth,
yeah,
and taking them all on.
I think that would be a really good ending, or another, addition to this series.
Or go back to the beginning and make a prequel. show how them creating the books.
Yes, and the records, and I think that would be a really good idea too. We had talked about that before this video, and there's just to get something like this that's just a breath of fresh air from the horror genre, from something that's as old as Evil Dead. It was absolutely wonderful. I can't wait for this to come out on video so I can hurry up and buy it, and I hope they come out with the steelbook because I'm all over that shit.
What I heard is, I actually just heard this yesterday, actually. So this movie came out this month. It's already coming out on DVD and shit next month.
Well, good. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think I do believe I read something where it said that this movie broke records already. So that's good for this movie. And like I said, guys, if you have not seen this movie, you are stupid at this point, wrong. Because this movie is stupid good.
You're not just wrong. You're stupid.
If you think just because Bruce Campbell's not in this movie that it's going to suck, this movie was great. This movie, for me, I'm not a really big Bruce Campbell fan. And so for me and you both, the 2013 and this one is just phenomenal. I loved it. Can't say enough good stuff about it.
I did read yesterday that the director of this one has teased a possible 4th book.
Okay.
So, sequels.
Loving it. So, guys, that's going to be it on the Evil Dead Rise movie review. We definitely appreciate you guys tuning in. Like always, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and the Slasher app. And until next time, guys, this is Horror Junkies, and we're out.